Yom Kippur is a time of renewal for Jewish people, those beyond our community, like our friends at Kolami, and those within our community as well. Rosh Hashanah, observed 10 days ago, welcomes the new year with a hope that it might be a sweet one. And Yom Kippur, which is translated as Day of Atonement, invites a reckoning of one's mistakes and an opportunity to seek forgiveness and begin again, to renew not just the year, but one's engagement in the world. In between, those 10 days are called the days of awe, a time for repentance, for prayer, and connection to deepest self and to community. I have been thinking over these 10 days about my friends who are rabbis and wondering how they are navigating all this at this moment, during a national chapter of heightened anti-Semitism, during COVID, during this deeply tense political moment. I have not asked them really, because you don't ask rabbis things during the days of awe. You just send them supportive messages, just like you don't ask Christian ministers things during Holy Week, and you don't ask imams things on Eid al-Fitr. But I have been wondering and sending supportive messages. And I have been wondering how any of us are navigating this time. This time when we feel called to do so much work for the world, when the world seems so in need of our work, and when we ourselves, like on a daily basis, might be feeling scared and exhausted and lonely and just done, as in, I am done with this pandemic. Can it be over now? I wonder, are my friends focusing on supporting their congregants in just making it through the week? Are they able to turn their attention to tikkun olam, the Jewish concept of repair of the world? How do we do this? Renew the world and ourselves. That seems like a lot, especially if it is an either or. I hear that idea at UUCA and in other congregations, and frankly in religious movements in general, that either or of social justice work or spiritual renewal. Are we a place of connecting with the outside, or are we a place where we take care of and nurture ourselves? I had the chance to meet last week with the Social Justice Ministries team. They have been gathering for just over a year with the support and leadership of Reverend Walter. And they have been asking themselves this question and the deeper question: what does it feel like if we are both? How might our social justice work be our spiritual renewal? How might our spiritual renewal be work for justice? I even heard at the team meeting this radical idea that social justice work is sometimes a form of worship. But it can feel hard, I think. I mean, isn't spiritual renewal for some of us about quiet walks in the woods alone? Yes. And doesn't social justice work sometimes exhaust and deplete us? Yes. I have, along with the days of awe, been thinking these past days about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She is a model for many of us in her work for gender equality, her work on behalf of LGBTQ equality, and her evolving work around racial justice. But what I want to talk about is how much she loved the opera. What a good grandma she was. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's love of the opera was renowned. in part because it highlights another incredible part of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her long friendship with Justice Scalia, opposed in core values and in court opinions in almost every way, and both opera lovers. Many of us might wish that we were flies on the wall during the intermission chat of the operas they attended together. RBG knew that beauty was a part of the life she needed. She said in 2015, recently quoted in the New York Times, "Most of the time, even when I go to sleep, I'm thinking about legal problems. But when I go to the opera, I'm just lost in it." And we need those moments, don't we, of being lost in beauty, lost in music, lost in wonder or joy, lost in our own spirit. But I think it's not only a break from the spinning of our minds that we need. Beauty can inform our sense of justice. If justice is about wanting a world that feels whole, a world repaired, that serves all, that itself, that vision, is a vision of beauty. This makes me think, of course, of Frederick, the mouse from our story today, who knew on some deep mousy level that gathering beauty, gathering colors and sunshine and words would be needed to make it through the winter. As we get ready for the winter to come, I am wondering what we need to gather to prepare ourselves, what beauty and goodness and awe we can store away for when we need it most. Elaine Scarry is an academic and the author of the book On Beauty and Being Just. She agrees with Frederick the Mouse and Frederick's author, Leo Leone. In a 2012 interview with the University of Texas Life and Letters, Elaine Scarry talks about the importance of beauty in leading us to justice and in the danger of being what she calls beauty blind. I want to note the ableist language in Scarry's phrase choice here, and to remember that we are all learning and growing beings. I will, though, share what she says. Beauty, Scarry tells us, is a call for us to educate ourselves and to care for the world. Being beauty blind means that we are cutting ourselves and generations of students off from a very powerful tributary that brings us to a concern with educating ourselves and repairing the world. Scarry thinks that if we ignore beauty or pretend it is frivolous or unneeded in the serious work of social justice or the serious world of academia, we are missing a pathway toward exactly that justice we seek. Beauty, spiritual renewal, leads to justice work. Awe in the forest, or being transported by hearing Kirite Kanawa sing an aria, or hearing Salt and Peppa celebrate the human body. These experiences of transcendence and transportation, they move us toward greater love for the world, greater contributions to the world's repair. Not separate, but connected. Though not, it is important, I think, to acknowledge realistically, always at the same time. Ann Joyce wrote an article for the Washington Post in the past week, quoting Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ginsburg said to The Atlantic a number of years ago, "I attributed my success in law school largely to Jane," her daughter, who was 14 months old when Ginsburg started law school. "I felt," said Ginsburg, "each part of my life gave me respite from the other." And then in 2014, she told Katie Couric, "You can't have it all at once." But over my lifespan, I think I have had it all. Of course, that was possible for Ginsburg in part because of her privilege as a white woman with opportunities for formal education and relative economic wealth. And also because of the very changes she put into place to make it possible, changes to the system to protect working mothers. Part of our work is to protect those changes, to extend them so that they apply equally and as accessibly to women of color and parents without economic privilege. Universal daycare, subliminal message. But on a deeper level, Ginsburg's quote, "Over my lifespan, I have had it all," speaks to one of the truths I have experienced. You know, we talk a lot about the balance of work and life, or the balance of inner work and focus on the outer world. I have yet to experience that all elusive balance when I find that everything is in perfect harmony with each other. Instead, I experience life as a seesaw. Times when I am able to be fully present for my children, and other times when what requires my presence is my work. Times when I am focused internally, and times when I am deeply connected to the justice work of the outer world. Or perhaps life as a braid, each part of life coming together, sloppy and uneven, the way that braids often are, but ultimately one piece. You are perhaps becoming aware that I do like metaphors for what life might be. Don't even get me started on life as a labyrinth. That is literally a different sermon. But life as a seesaw or a braid, life as all these things over our lifetimes, that feels real to me. There is a Unitarian Universalist hymn for this idea. I think there is a Unitarian Universalist hymn for almost any idea, but this is one of my favorites. This hymn has words by Bruce Findlow and beautiful music by Patrick Rickey. It is called "For All That Is Our Life." For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use, to build the common good and make our own days glad. To build the common good, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, and make our own days glad. Sometimes those things are one. We are building the common good, and that is making our days glad. Our justice work is informing and growing who we are spiritually. Sometimes they are one, and it is the reverse. It is that in making our days glad, we build the common good. I think of gatherings set aside for Black joy. As scholar Imani Perry wrote in The Atlantic, joy is not found in the absence of pain and suffering, it exists through it. Blackness is an immense and defiant joy. Or I think of the glitter of a pride parade, a movement which began as a riot and has moved forward to incorporate both protest and fierce celebration. Sometimes the building the common good and the making our own days glad aren't the same exact moment. Perhaps we need a day or two or a year or two of focusing inward before we turn outward. Or perhaps the work for justice calls to us and we know we will have some long days and challenging weeks ahead. But always they inform each other. The renewal the world seeks and the renewal we seek ourselves. Most fundamentally, this is what collective liberation means to me. Another piece of wisdom from that social justice ministries team meeting. The deep knowledge that, as Fannie Lou Hamer put it, none of us are free until all of us are free. That our liberation is collective. All of us are stuck in the lack of freedom some hold. All of us will be liberated together. We are renewed and the world is renewed. The world is free and we are free. In the days of awe, during the time of atonement and renewal, the conversation is so often around this. How our own lives, our most personal mistakes, repentance, forgiveness, and recommitment is connected to the renewal of the world, to tikkun olam. It is a scary time out there. It is a scary time, especially for those of us who carry marginalized identities, for those of us whose lives and bodies have been legislated in the past and may be legislated again. It is a scary time for those of us who live on this planet Earth we share. I cannot take away that fear, but I want to honor it, to hold it with you if you are holding it most particularly now. It is also a time when the beautiful, the just may yet be emerging. When our commitment to renewal of ourselves and of the world may yet continue to blossom. And what I know is that for us to move forward, we need all of the beauty and all of the justice, all of the colors and all of the wheat. We need all of us for the world to be made whole. I return again and again to the words of my colleague Teresa Inés Soto. All of us need all of us to make it. All of us need all of us. Our liberation is collective. The renewal of the world is my renewal too. We need the beauty to create the good, our own flourishing to help the world to flourish. So let's gather beauty, friends. Let's build the common good and make our own days glad, right at the same time or braided together into the life we share. Together, we renew, and we renew the world. May it be so.